Who's next?
Well, Tommy, our next guest is Sinead O'Connor!
Frightened?
Never frightened, no. I'm moved already.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I thought you were frightened of me. I was telling him we met on the 50th anniversary of the Late Late, and I said he stared at me like I was going to eat him. You were so frightened looking.
There's just from the reception there, there's phenomenal love for you. It's a strange one, isn't it? Because you've had troubles, and it's like that can be there.
Yeah.
And also a profound sense of loneliness can be there as well with you.
Well, I think fame is a lonely thing. I understood the phrase loneliness is a crowded room.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that until I got really famous, do you know? So definitely I think being famous can make you lonesome. But I think, to be fair, some people are a bit inclined to isolate anyway. I don't necessarily feel lonesome. I think perhaps I did when I was younger. I don't so much now, but you can be inclined to maybe isolate a bit when you're a bit well known as well, do you know what I mean? Because it's a pain in the arse going for butter, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So, would you have somebody you can send for butter? Like?
No. I just go myself. No, I guess I used to be a bit lonesome, but I don't really feel that way anymore. You know the way that Bob Dylan says, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it could be lonesome not being well. That could be lonesome.
That's I don't know what the proper word for it is. Time, that illness, those moments they're public.
Yeah, but that's okay, I think, and that's probably why there is love also, because we're all going through these things. There's nothing that I went through that's particularly any different as such to a whole lot of other people, what they went through, do you know what I mean? So I think that's why there's love also, because, one has been brave about one's suffering, Can
I ask you then, is there a desire to be seen to be suffering in public?
No, not at all. Certainly not. I don't suffer any longer, thanks be to God. So that's all in the past. At the time, the desire I had was to stay alive. And that was why I was figuring by any means necessary. Do you know what I mean? And for me, it was loneliness. There was a lot of loneliness involved in publicly reaching out.
Yeah.
But it was also a lot of desperation. I was dying. I really was. Do you know what I mean? So I was grasping at anything that might keep me alive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Dying of?
Of the conditions that I was suffering from, I was going to end up dead if I didn't reach out and I didn't grab for life. Do you know what I mean? So that, to me, that's what it was. I was very lonesome, as a lot of people with conditions can be, because even within your own circle, you can be a bit like one woman wrote a poem describing mental illness. It says she felt as if she was blending into the plasterwork of her family home. Do you know what I mean? That nobody could see her, nobody could... And it could be a bit like that. So I was a bit lonesome, but I was really seriously in danger of dying. So that's why I was reaching out and doing anything I possibly could to stay alive. Do you know what I mean? So,
but that just, when you said that thing of sometimes people... with mental illness feel as if they're blending into the
plasterwork.
Into plasterwork, but there's also an acute sense. I mean, that suggests anonymity.
Yeah.
But I think that what strikes me about your story, that part of your story, is acute pain.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just anonymity.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. You know, the assumption is that people who are suicidal are mentally ill. That's not necessarily the case at all. It's a complete misnomer, for want of a better word. You know, perhaps 50% of people have suicidal ideation as a symptom of an illness. The other 50% are suicidal because something really shit is going on in their lives that's making them feel that way. That was the case for me. There was shit going on in my life that drove me a bit mental. Do you know what I'm saying? In the midst of which I had a radical hysterectomy, which would drive anyone mental. Do you know what I'm saying? I can laugh about that now, but at the time it was terrible. I don't enjoy suffering, and it's not that I'm one of these artists that feels like I don't get creative unless I'm suffering. In fact, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And it's over, thanks be to God. And the great thing about going mental is you get sane again. You know, so you know what I mean. So it's over, and it's a bit like The Madness of King George. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yes.
He gets rid of everybody who remembers.
Yeah.
Because he's back to being the king again. And there's a certain logic in that, you know. There's no point looking back or looking behind. When you get well, you just keep looking forward. Do you know what I'm saying? But if I hadn't done the reaching out that I did do, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now. I really wouldn't, do you know? So,
do you have lots of friends?
Do I have lots of friends? I don't, no. No, I don't.
How's that? I don't mean what is the experience of that like. I mean, how did that happen?
How did it happen? I suppose because I was a bit lonely. I am also agoraphobic, which nobody knows about. I never discussed that. So I suffer from agoraphobia quite badly.
Which is the fear of?
A fear of open spaces, you know. So I don't go out very much. Because I had gone through hard times, which are now over, I isolated myself as well. Do you know what I mean? I didn't really nurture friendships. And then I found, I don't know if you find this, but I found that people would want to, and that still happens, that people want to be friends with me for the wrong reasons. You know, they want something, or they, do you know what I mean? They're not, you know, it would be rare for me to experience somebody who wants to be friends with me just because they like me. There's usually a job in it or something else in it, or do you know what I'm saying? And then I've also become very untrusting of people, do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I got kind of cynical. So yeah, I'm not really great at making friends. I'm friends with my band and I'm friends with musicians and this, that and the other, but I'm lacking in the
so in
the friends department.
kind of a day-to-day,
yeah, no, I'd be lacking
around the house
in that department. Yeah, I would definitely like to brush up on it, you know.
Will you talk to me about there's a few things I'm curious about.
I'm glad you're not as frightened as I thought you'd be. I thought you'd be fucking terrified. I was telling them, no, I'm so terrified. But after the late, you were really looking at me like a lion was going to eat you.
Well, I suppose, Sinead, like, in a way, it's bizarre for me to find myself talking to you.
Right.
Because when I was young and growing up in Ireland, you were an icon, a powerful, flamboyant, creative star, and I don't mean that in the celebrity sense. I mean something that's shining in the sky. So sometimes when you're face to face with someone, the part of you is going, "Fuck off."
Oh, well, I thought it was more like "fuck off, fuck right off." Don't fucking talk to me. It's kind of like that.
Is that Sinead O'Connor?
Yeah. I was wearing a priest shirt.
Yeah.
Might have had something to do with it.
Talk to me about Islam.
Yeah.
And what happened, or how, or what? How did? What do you do?
What do I do?
What do the Islams do?
Well, Islam, let me see, how do I talk about it? The word Islam, it basically means slave. Muslim/Islam is a word that means slave. It would describe a person who would consider themselves, if you like, a slave to God. A Muslim is a person who simply believes that nothing in this world should be worshipped but God. And that's how I feel, I guess. I've always been interested in theology since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because we all grew up in this theocracy, and I wanted to know what was this book that they're using to oppress my granny with, you know? How come my granny, my granddad can't have a kiss without feeling guilty, you know? Mm-hmm. So I started reading the scriptures when I was very, very young, and then I started studying all different religions. And I never thought I would become one other than the one I was born into, you know? And I had left Islam to last because I had a ton of prejudice about it, actually. But as soon as I started reading the Quran, or started listening to it rather, I just felt like I was home. You know?
Do you pray?
I talk to God, if that's what you call praying. Yes, I believe that's praying. I always did talk to God all day, every day, even when I'm annoyed with it, you know. I always been not religious, but I always been very faithful person. I really do believe there is God. I don't just believe it, I know it. I don't like the word faith because it implies, it's like Santa Claus, believing in something you don't know. But I've always known there's a God, and I've always talked to God since I was that age. So that hasn't become, that's no different because I became Muslim. I don't talk any more or any less to God than I would have beforehand. I don't do the 5 times a day prayers and all that. I'm not a strict Muslim, you know. I wear a hijab all the time because that's my statement, I guess, you know. But I don't talk to God any more or less than I did before, you know.
Do you have any sense of a reply?
Quite often there is a reply, and often it's in the lack of a reply. But yeah, and I've always had replies. That's why I say it's not faith, it's knowledge, you know. I've had mental experiences with prayer, you know. So...
What kind?
Tell you what.
Yeah.
Well,
and
then
there's
one
no
time,
way it was Santa.
No, no. But one time when I was a kid, I had the maddest experience when I was a kid, and this is probably what started off my belief. I had a verruca on my toe, and I was about 11, and it had been there for about a year, big black fucking verruca, and my sister used to stomp on it when we had rows, you know. So I decided I wanted to get rid of it, and nothing would get rid of this creature. It just wouldn't go. So I was supposed to go into St. Michael's Hospital, and I was delighted I was going to go to the hospital because I was going to get loads of attention, you know, fucking loads of ice cream, no school, I'd milk it for all it was worth, you know. And my granny and my mother the night before put on my toe lured water, and I thought, this pair of crazy bitches, like, would you ever fuck off, you know? But in the morning it was gone, completely and utterly gone. I was raging because I wanted all the attention, do you know what I mean? But, you know, it was completely and utterly gone, so I had a weird little miracle.
I know as well when people talk about prayer and stuff that happens, it always, when it comes out of your mouth and you've said it, it never sounds as dramatic as the event itself. So talking about prayer isn't about trying to convince other people that it was an amazing thing, because it is.
No, it's very mundane. Like that miracle, I had a miracle. That's a fucking miracle, but it's a verruca miracle. It's the most mundane and boring miracles, but it was a miracle. That's a bloody miracle.
Yeah. I was listening to one of the early albums recently, and I think it's The Lion and the Cobra, and I was... How old were you when you wrote that?
20. Well, I wrote a lot of the songs when I was 16, 17, but it came out when I was 20.
Do you sometimes... Could that songwriting... I mean, it must have been like being possessed by fire. It's unbelievably fantastic. And I sometimes... What do you feel about that time of writing? Are you connected to that?
Yeah, very much so. I didn't... My eldest son, he's 32, Jake is his name. He thinks that I have this syndrome. He says there's a thing called imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
He reckons I have it. Because I have felt a bit like I felt like an imposter. I felt like I didn't really understand why people like the songs. They fell out of me. I didn't try to write them. Do you know what I'm saying? They just fell out. I was really messed up in the head, and there was no such thing as therapy.
Yeah.
So I just flucked it all into music, you know? And suddenly everybody was... like they're great songs, but I never sat down and said, I'm going to try and write a song right now, or I'm going to try and write a great song, or any of that stuff. I just had a lot of...
But even it wasn't just that they're great songs, Sinead, it was the subject matter. They're so diverse. Troy, Mandinka, what's the one with Joe?
No, just call me Joe.
Is the one that has Have Another Drink Before the Wars.
Yeah.
They're just remarkably diverse subject matter. It's not like,
oh, that's good.
My heart is broken, here I am, I have no shoes. It's like, you know, it's...
Yeah.
Is that a good song?
No, it depends on what you want to rhyme with it.
Do you still write?
I do. Now, I haven't written for a couple of years. I just started writing again recently. I didn't really write for... since I had the hysterectomy, I wasn't well at all for about 3 or 4 years. So I never picked up an instrument, nothing for a few years. But about a year ago, I wrote a song, and I've just started again recently, just tooling with the guitar, and I'm halfway through a song at the moment. But I'm a bit scared. I notice I'm a bit. I don't know what to write about, and kind of, you know, I got a bit of a block going on, you know. But I'll get through it, you know.
You're on the road again.
I am on the road, yeah.
What's that?
I'm in the midst of touring at the moment, yeah.
What's that like?
It's great. It's great. Good fun. It's not fun pooping into bags on a tour bus, but
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows, but you can't go take a hard solid on a tour bus. It's got a note on the door that says no solids.
Yeah.
So that's not very glamorous, but apart from that, it's pretty good. So we were doing what you call hot bags every day. Yeah, and you got to get up early before everybody else and run out the bus with your hot bag in Belgium and dump it in some bin.
Sounds like a mobile prison.
Yeah, it is a bit. It is a bit. But it's fun, you get used to it, you know. It's rock and roll. It doesn't matter if you're the Queen of England, Barbara Streisand, Mariah Carey, you're not taking a shit on a tour bus. They don't care. Now, I think it makes for a great book. I've got this idea for a book called No Solids, because everybody's got... Exactly. No, but it would be really funny if you got like Mariah Carey's funny story about trying to take a shit on tour. Everybody's got fucking mental stories about trying to take shits or trying not to take shits on tour, you know. So anyway, this is all we were talking about on tour, and of course it all came around to nothing compares to poo. That was so we were going to try and sell it, you know, sell Sinead O'Connor's hot bags.
Would you have a song in your pocket, as they say?
Well, they did ask me that. Now, the only song that I know that I can sing a cappella is the most miserable of fucking songs, which I don't think we should sing, because it's called I'm Stretched on Your Grave, and it's really miserable. But, yeah, exactly. I know one funny song, which I only know 2 verses of, which is, there is a doggy shit on my foot sole. Do you know this song?
No.
And it smells like a doggy's ass, and that is not the smell of Elizabeth Arden. It is sitting on my foot sole, and it smells like a doggy's ass. And that is not the smell of Elizabeth Arden. That's it.
Wow, that's
all I can think of.
That's in radical contrast to the Late Late Show song. Radical.
Exactly. And well, you see, the only song I know that I could do a cappella is too fucking miserable.
That's fine. That's okay. When can we see you live in Ireland?
June and July, I've got some shows in Ireland. I know I've got the Ivy Gardens, which I think is July, but I'm not quite sure. And then there's Belfast, the Botanic Gardens. There's a couple of other Irish shows around June, July.
Thanks for coming on and doing the show. And thank you.
Cool.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sinead O'Connor.
Thank you.